Hi there, this is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, bringing you the latest Twiglet Zone. Today's Twiglet Zone is all about energy. It's all about energy in the universe and energy that circulates around the world and how we can influence it. It's crazy stuff, but it is the Twiglet Zone. Today I want to tell you a little bit about the rivers of electromagnetic energy that flow throughout the universe. What is interesting about these is when you think about those spaceships we talked about in recent times, extraterrestrials, having been more visible on our planet than ever before. We've seen spaceships, we've seen them, and clearly they have traveled multi-million light years to get to this planet. And the question arises, well, how do they manage to do that? And the truth of it is that they do travel at the speed of thought. The speed of thought is very, very fast relative to light. So they can actually move across just by imagining where they want to go, and then they can kind of create the momentum that takes them there in a very short period of time. So thought is a really powerful thing, but getting back to these fields of electromagnetic rivers that run through the universe, this is where they draw their power from. It's their equivalent of the BP station or the Shell station, right? They just basically draw this in from around the spaceship, these rivers of energy. And then the spaceship has the ability to convert that into the power that they need in order to keep the systems going within the actual spaceship itself. But again, it's way more advanced than anything that we've ever even dreamt of, because, you know, we're still throwing fossil fuels out the bottom of rockets. They have this electromagnetic energy which they use to cross the galaxies and the universe. Also, the beings that travel, you would imagine there's no galactic McDonald's drive-thrus that they can actually stop to keep sustaining themselves. Well, the reality is that they can feed off energy around them as well. They're not beings in the way that we are, who need food and drink in order to survive. They actually are able to feed off the energy that surrounds them as well. And it all depends, because that's not universally the case across all types of beings, because there are a multitude, and there are those other physical kind of beings who also, and even some androids that actually do consume certain things in order to sustain them. But for the most part, the extraterrestrials that we think of as the extraterrestrials are ones that actually need very little by way of sustenance, and they can draw it from energy from the atmosphere. It might be energy from the sun, from a moon, from wherever. There's so many different forms of energy out there that are relatively unrecognized by mankind. But again, if you go back to the times of Atlantis, they used to use solar power, but not just solar power, but also moon related power as well. Two very different frequencies. So the Atlanteans knew how to use energy far more efficiently than we do today. They were able to store and to accelerate the amount of power that could be harnessed from the sun. And also pyramids, it's an interesting thing. And what makes pyramids so powerful is that they're an accelerant. So when you enter energy into a pyramid, it accelerates. And if you kind of think about it, start off with the bottom of the pyramid, forcing into it all the energy that you need, and then you accelerate that to the top, then it's getting more and more concentrated. Then by the time you reach the top, then you've got a highly concentrated energy going out. And apparently the pyramids still work today, sort of signaling out into the galaxy and signaling out across the universe. The precise positions of those are certainly not an accident. But the Atlanteans used to use the power of the sun, and they were able to increase the level of energy they would get from these. And also the moon power that I mentioned earlier as well. And these were energies that were easily stored. The whole Atlantis thing, and even the Lemurian society prior to that, are incredible stories on their own. So I'll come back to that at some point in time. So coming back to the extraterrestrials, we know they're here to help us because the Earth is moving from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. And the question is, are we able to travel with planet Earth from the third to the fifth dimension? Because we can't do it from the dense energies that are around the planet right now. And what do I mean by that? So, because so much, if you think about the power of thought, it is hugely powerful, way more powerful than we typically give it credit for. And when you think about it, every thought has its own energy and its own power. And the energies that swirl around this planet, ignoring the electromagnetic energies that are the rivers that go outside of the planet, we create our own energy as a global community just by the power of thought. So the more dense that the thought power is, in other words, more people are stuck in victimhood, the way more people are stuck in anger, in greed, control, power, aggression, war, all exceedingly dense energies. That adds into those who are offsetting that to some degree by focusing more on love, compassion, kindness, and the good things in life, right? Celebration of life, joy, happiness. They're high frequency energies versus low frequency energies. But if you think about it, it's like having an energy bath, all these energies mixing in together and creating a thought energy that circulates around the planet. Now, the more dense that has become over the decades because of wars, because of division energy that is out there in the political spectrum, with countries trying to kind of pit against each other. And then that creates fear amongst the population, who all of a sudden there's certain nations being vilified, and you always regard your own nation as the hero nation, typically. And so, you're creating a division energy, which is a very dense energy. So this has been accelerated over the years, and it's harmful. It's harmful to our entire planet because we are the sum total, to some degree, of the energies that circulate around, and they filter out across the galaxy, they filter out across the universe, and they affect other areas as well. So what is the answer to this? Well, Nostradamus actually made this point about, he foresaw what was going to happen. He foresaw the wars. He foresaw that. There is a comment from Nostradamus that the way to offset this is to raise the level of positive energy on the planet. He felt if we can elevate our frequencies, if we can be more focused in that world of love and light, compassion, kindness, humility, generosity, all the good things, happiness, joy, love. It's, who wouldn't want to live in that, right? But to do that, you've got to clear away the density of fear and stress, or change your focus. How do you change your focus? Well, you go within, you meditate. The Buddha said, quiet the mind and the soul will speak. But when you quiet the mind, you get away from the noise of life and you allow connection to your higher self. Your higher self is your oversoul, if you like. There's the physical you, and within this is the spirit that has come from the soul energy, okay? So you connect back with that energy that is all knowing, is all wise, is all loving. And that, once you tap into that, you start to tap into the real you, because really we are unlimited. We have unlimited potential for all the good things that we want to do. But to do it, you've got to switch off from the noise of life. You've got to get away from the fear, from the stress, all that sort of thing. And it's not as difficult to do as you might think. For a start, you have to start switching off the news. You have to stop listening to all these false narratives that are being used to control people. Because the more you put people into fear, the more easily you're able to control them. And this is what politicians have been doing for years. It's what pharmaceutical companies have done to kind of using drugs or beauty treatments or whatever. You basically create insecurities first, and then you resolve the issue you just created. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of marketing for you. So once we allow for that shift in consciousness to take us to that more elevated level, then we are actually influencing the energy patterns of the Earth. And it would only take 1% of the population of the Earth to refocus their energies in that way to make a massive difference. And the reason it makes a massive difference is because high frequency energies are significantly more powerful than low frequency energies. And that does make sense if you stop and think about it. So if we could get 1% of the world's population kind of tuning in to their higher selves, working out who they truly are. I look at it as, when I do this, it sounds a bit corny, but I want to be the best me that I can be. So by going within and tapping in, and it's amazing, once you start receiving that guidance from your higher self, you start to be able to do all sorts of things, and all sorts of doors open up for you. And to be fair, this is not going to be right for everybody, and I don't pretend it is, because there are people who are not ready for that move. They're not ready for that leap of faith. They're still stuck in the density of what is going on, and they feel, because this is their strong version of reality with concrete walls around it, and they can't shift away from that. Their beliefs are so strong, they're not in a position to break out of it, and that's perfectly fine. I respect everybody's perspective. All we want to do at Elevated Planet is to awaken people to the opportunity, should they choose to take it, to actually go within, find their higher self, tap into that energy, and then come together as a group consciousness to raise the energy of the planet. And that way, we can start to elevate ourselves more towards that fifth dimension. Because as I've said before, you cannot get from the third dimension to the fifth dimension when you're stuck in these dense energies. Yet we totally have the power. We have all the control we will ever need. It doesn't always feel that way, because the way that the life programming works on this planet, you kind of get told that you're reliant on everybody else, that wisdom is outside of you. Well, the wisdom is actually within you. We've all got it. None of us are better than anybody else. It doesn't matter whether you're the Prime Minister, the President of the United States of America. Everybody in reality is equal. We just got different roles to play. But each of us does have a role. We're all here on purpose, and we're all here for a reason. To tap into that reason, that's when you I've got to go through this elevation process. If you're ready for it, join us, because we're running series of meditations and guidance. The guided meditations are really good, but at the same time, I again respect the fact that people often find their own way with this, because there is no one size fits all. It is a question of what works for you. So you can experiment with it. What are the visualizations that you need to create for yourself that enables you to find that special place where you connect with the higher realms? I would love you to be on this journey with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We know third dimension to the fifth dimension is happening. The extraterrestrials is happening. They're going to become more and more visible. And I would say certainly by the end of this decade, there will be nobody on the planet who doesn't know that extraterrestrials have been out there since the dawn of creation. It's just going to be a matter of fact. The way that many people don't believe in extraterrestrials right now, that won't exist anymore, because they'll have seen it for themselves. They'll have seen the spaceships. They'll have seen not just the little craft that have been coming down to Earth, but they'll also see the big motherships that actually from which these smaller craft are sent out. We will have seen it for ourselves, but we will also know unequivocally by then that they're here in love and service. They're not here to do anything other than help us on our journey. And many of them have actually been through this themselves through their own lives. Say, for instance, in the Pleiadian star system, a lot have come from there. And there are those amongst them who've actually had their planet destroyed along the way, and they've had to rehome themselves on a different planet. So there's another Twiglet Zone story for you there in the future as well. But for now, that's all I'm going to say. One more thing. The rivers of energy. Rivers of energy run through the universe, as previously explained, and this is used for a variety of purposes. The rivers of energy that run around Earth have been disrupted in recent decades because the Earth has slightly shifted its position. And what happens then is it creates a lot of activity, because here's the explanation, right? So if you think about these electromagnetic rivers all swirling around planet Earth, and they're quite stable, they don't really change. So our entire planet is worked around these particular electromagnetic fields and everything on the planet. Now, the Earth's crust has a lot of iron within it. Okay, what happens with ions and magnets? Okay, well, when you think about this, right, as kids in school, we always used to do that experiment where you would get iron filings on a piece of paper, and then you would introduce a magnet underneath, and you would be able to see the different patterns that the electromagnetic or that the magnetic field would create on the paper as the iron filings moved themselves into the positions they were being attracted into. In the same way, when you get a shift around the planet, those electromagnetic rivers, the crust of the Earth is pulled in different directions. It tries to realign itself with those magnetic forces. And what that creates is earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and changes in season as well, for that matter. And they're things that we've seen a great deal of over these last few decades. So those electromagnetic forces are the reason that that actually happens. A lot of the scientists believe it has to do with the magnetic poles. That is less the case. It is more the electromagnetic rivers that circle around the planet. So there you have it. Let's all raise our energy and let's raise our twiglets. If you feel that this story could be true, or indeed is true, then you would score it accordingly on the deludedometer. If, on the other hand, you think it's complete deluded nonsense, then you can score it a 5. I will look forward to catching up with you again on the Twiglet Zone.